What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Rum Pure Sports Cash Lineup Review / Preview Show. As always, here we'll kind of go through, the decision-making process in Week 3 in terms of the cash lineups, and then kind of go into a little bit of a preview of Week 4 here this week in terms of the pricing, more like a first look thing. Any injuries or news that we're kind of waiting on here, things to pay attention to throughout the week. But before we get into all that, let me bring in my two guys here. We got Title, we got Mangone. Mangone, what's going on? How was your Week 3?
Yeah, Week 3 was good. No complaints here. Won money both sites. So, it's always easier to get up the next morning, right? When you lose, it's a bit tough. Good start to the year for me. It's pretty happy. I like everything I'm seeing with NFL too. I feel like I'm seeing it clearly. I feel like I'm seeing things that I feel good about for future weeks. So pretty excited to kind of keep going with the NFL season. How about you guys? How was your weeks?
Yeah, Title. My week was the first week I didn't get fully dusted. Let's put it that way. So I was happy. I was happy. It was pretty close, around break even for me. Made some good moves. Made some regretful moves, but we'll dig into all that. Title. How was your Week 3?
Yeah, Week 3 was my best week so far. FanDuel, I got there pretty much. DK, I think I pretty much broke even or something. Got my head-to-head win against my guys, so that's the only thing that really matters for me. But it was fun. It was a good week. NFL is a long season. Go through good stretches, go through bad stretches. Weeks 1 and 2 were pretty much break even or lost a little or won a little. So felt nice to get a pretty good win. And then I do the showdown slates like you guys all do. I do the prime time, the 2 gamers and stuff like that. So altogether, I'll take it. A couple good decisions on both sites though. The pricing, even though it's not really tight, there's just so many options with how good the NFL is nowadays. The ownership is pretty spread out. You're not getting these 85% owned, 90% owned guys. So a lot of decisions to make. I'm excited to talk through, see where you guys landed, and look forward to Week 4 because NFL is a great time. A lot of weeks left. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, the pricing does suck for the most part, which we'll talk about. But the fact that we don't have any buys yet at this point in the season keeps a lot of guys in the player pool, a lot of different options. Let's before we get into the breakdown, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Helps us to continue to bring you guys these shows. Subscribe button is that little red box in the bottom right hand corner of the video. If you could just tap that and also tap the like button, that helps us to continue, like I said, to bring you guys these shows. We had some pretty solid wins this week across the board in multiple sports. We had a big tennis win. Rosa T23 took down 10K in tennis. We had an MLB $25,000 win. Hunter R, we had a MLB $50,000 win. Tex Graves 77. NFL Okie Horn took down 3,200. And then another NFL win. Shawnee Wins took down 10K. Some other ones in there, but those were a few that we wanted to highlight here on this show. All right, let's get into it, and we'll start on FanDuel, and we'll talk about FanDuel. I think there was, I don't know, I guess each site kind of had maybe like 3 or 4 decision points really. On FanDuel, the guys that I personally was building around, and you guys can tell me if you were thinking any different. I was playing Barkley for sure. I mean, I talked about it on all the shows. 6K on FanDuel, I thought he was a lock. DK was 6,500, maybe a little bit more of a decision, but we talked about it all week. Like the workload was just going to increase, and we saw that this week. He looked a lot better. He had the 10 days rest in between the Thursday night game and the Sunday game, which would obviously help him. The matchup was good against Atlanta, and he got there for us. He wasn't all that efficient, but the workload was there, and he got the goal line carry and scored the touchdown, which is what we needed. The other guy that obviously turned into a lock was Madison. When Cook was ruled out, it kind of became pretty clear as the week went on that there was some coach talk that made it seem like Cook might play, but Saturday night it kind of became clear that Cook wasn't going to play. Madison at 5-2. Just a lock button play, and then he was 6K again on DK, where a little more of a decision, but me personally, I think you just played, both those guys, Barkley and Madison. No-brainer plays on FanDuel. On DK, you could make the case against them, but I really felt that they were the right plays. Other guys that I kind of considered locks on FanDuel. I guess wide receiver, there's probably like 5 or 6 guys to consider, but the one guy I knew I was playing for sure was DK Metcalf at 7-2. And, he got there basically all in one drive, the first drive of the game. And then the Seahawks, their play calling, considering the players they have on their roster, their play calling might be amongst the worst in the league. Like, considering the talent they have with Russ, DK, Lockett, like, those 3 alone should be very easy to call plays for those guys. But for some reason, Carroll or whoever's calling the plays there, just atrocious. So I kind of feel lucky that we got there with DK Metcalf. Then after him, like some of the other guys that I was looking at, going up to Cooper Kupp, he was 7-9. Not a lot of people did it, but in hindsight, obviously that would have been a good move. I really liked Robert Woods, who I ended up playing, and he failed obviously at 5 point. He only had 5.3 fantasy points, but 6.1K. I wanted pieces of that game, specifically the Rams passing game. I knew I was going Higbee and Kupp on DK. So I said, you know what, I'll take this cheap price on Robert Woods. Really hasn't gotten there this season. He had the 1 touchdown, I believe, in week 1. So maybe that was a little bit of a mistake. Claypool, I really liked with Deontay Johnson out. Claypool was only 5.8K. Thought Tyler Boyd was in the conversation. I believe you went with him, 5.6K. There's a lot of guys in this range. And then I knew I wanted either Kelsey or Waller at tight end. Neither of them had a big game. Kelsey's game was good enough, though. I think 110 yards, 5 or 6 catches. And then on defense, I was looking at either the Bills or the Broncos. So those were kind of a few of the decisions. And then at quarterback, we had talked about in the show, I really like Josh Allen. Kind of got twisted on to Lamar Jackson. Wish I would have stuck with Title's boy Josh Allen, who just had the monster game. A lot of middling performances, but like I said, the guys I knew I was playing, Barkley, Madison. Oh, and then the other running back, if you're going 3 running backs, I think, Derrick Henry or Austin Eckler, I think it became pretty clear you wanted maybe one of those 2 guys. So maybe 3 or 4 locks for me here. And then, maybe 4 or 5 decisions. I'm going to go to you first, Title. We've been talking about Josh Allen every week. Did you go with your boy Josh Allen this week?
No, I did not. And I absolutely knew I'd come on here. I was so tilted because I was debating him, but I ended up taking Lamar on the cash chart. The prices were too close for me. Got Detroit in a dome. His rushing upside is just so much. And he is slinging the ball around the field. He's looking really good.
The game shape. He should have been free roll. Marquise Brown, I was so high in him in tournaments this week. Like I talked about it on shows, absolutely loved him. Like those were some of the worst drops you're ever going to see. So awful. Really the Lamar performance, suffered because of that.
Yeah, Lamar hit a 4 game, and he could have easily had 29, 30 on DraftKings. He was close to the bonus too. Like he ran so bad they couldn't catch the ball. He still got your 20.28. Which, going back to where we talked about before week 1, spending up at quarterback, you get these 4 games, they don't absolutely bury you. I tagged him. He was about 50% in cash. Obviously, Josh Allen, I wish I went there. That was the game I was expecting weeks 1 or 2. But I tagged Lamar. I agree. Saquon and Alexander Madison were the other 2 tags. I thought they were both, pretty much locks. Both way too cheap. Both of their roles were so big, especially Madison on FanDuel. DraftKings, I actually didn't get there, but we'll wait for that. Very, very strong play on FanDuel. Outside of that, I thought Cooper Kupp and DK Metcalf were my next 2 priorities. Cooper Kupp's just been the alpha. He's by far the main dog for Stafford. He's so good. In the best game environment, I thought he was a very strong play. You have all the money in the world on FanDuel too with going to Madison and stuff. So I paid 7.9K. DK Metcalf, like you mentioned, 7.2. Same reason as last week, pretty much. His touchdown upside so big. It's not going to be a lock of game every week. Metcalf got there in the first quarter. I wish he did, or first drive, like you said. I wish he did a little more, but he got there for us. You're not going to complain about that. I ended up going Waller. I needed the money. I wanted Kelsey, but I went Woods, Waller, Broncos D, and I actually went Joe Mixon at the other running back. That was the last position I really filled out. I thought running back 3 outside of Saquon and Madison were up for grabs. I thought Eckler was strong. I thought Henry was strong. I thought Mixon, he's one of the few 3-down running backs that just goes overlooked a little bit. He had 18 carries, 90 yards. Pittsburgh kind of dominated the time of possession. It felt like a little bit. They were up a lot. Big Ben's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, what a mess that situation is. I mean, it's tough to watch. Like I mean, did they really think coming into this season that he was going to be the answer at quarterback? I mean, it's a tough scene there, and it's not going to get any better.
no, yeah. And it was absolutely brutal. Part of the reason I went Bengals D on DraftKings, which I thought was a pretty much a lock. They were 2.1K, but he was awful last year. I know they had out like 11-0 or something, but it wasn't because of him. It was just short passes. Their defense were playing well. You get a good quarterback back there. That team's scary with Najee, Claypool, Deontay. Big Ben drags them all. Yeah, he's awful. So I went Joe Mixon. I thought the Bengals were going to win that game outright. I thought it was going to be a good game script. He did whatever, 9.9. Like you said, Waller, Kelsey. I landed Waller because of the money. I thought Robert Woods was a very strong play, the best game environment. Stafford's throwing the ball. 34 points they put up. He only has 5.3. I don't know. I mean, I still think it was kind of the right play. Maybe
he got his 1 yard rushing for me and Mangone, so that was good. Mangone gave that winner on the was it the cash review or the cash show, right?
Yeah, I think it was that and I don't know if I said the Javonte Williams one. I don't know. I had some others that didn't go as great, but overall the props were good for me. It's hard. Those lines move really quick. Actually, the Robert Woods moved the opposite way, Hoop. I bet 1.5 and then it went to 0.5. So I was like, okay, that's fine. He still got the job done.
Yeah, I wish I would have been the 1.5 because I think I had to pay like 140 on the juice. But so I mean they do move quick, like you said. So it's highly juiced, but he's always going to get some rush attempts. So.
Especially with no Sony Michel, or not no Sony Michel, no Darrell Henderson, and Sony Michel is the guy there. It just makes no sense to run it up the middle to V, right? Like just go on the outside with Robert Woods, trying to attack a corner. It just made way more sense.
Yeah, they did that a lot last year. I expected a bigger score, but so I went Woods, and then I had the money for Broncos defense. I thought it was Broncos or Bills. FanDuel, because of their pricing, when Alexander Madison 5,200, like, you can pretty much play anyone. We talk about all-star teams. Broncos at home, one of the best defenses against one of the worst offenses against a rookie quarterback. I ran good for sure. Did I think they were going to get me 19? Absolutely not. But I knew they had upside. So I went Lamar, Joe Mixon, Saquon, Cooper Kupp, DK Metcalf, Robert Woods, Waller, Madison, Broncos D. Put up 146.68. Snuck into pretty much all the 50-50s. I only had 3 guys going at the 1 p.m. games. Didn't have any Eckler, didn't have Mike Williams. So I was sweating it a little bit, but defense helped me get there with Kupp and Metcalf. So snuck in. It was a pretty good week, but like I had a 10% Joe Mixon. I had some other low-owned plays, and I've been doing that on both sites this year, which I actually like for DFS.
Yeah, in this day and age where a lot of guys are super highly owned, we talk about it. It's not the worst idea to play some lower owned guys in cash games to kind of differentiate yourself. And like you said, to beat the trains too, if you're in some of these double ups where people can put a ton of entries in, looking to jump some trains. It's hard if you're playing all the chalk plays. You have to really, maybe look at some guys that might be a little lower owned. All right, Mangone, talk me through your process here on FanDuel and some of the decision points that you had leading up to Sunday lock.
Yeah, so we'll talk about FanDuel here and kind of decisions that I made. Hoop, you brought up the Barkley thing. I think at first when we were talking Barkley, I was like, man, I don't really want to play him, but I get it. And then as the week developed, I was like, okay, you have to play him, especially on FanDuel. And then DK became more apparent, especially Sunday morning. I mean, I was still on Barkley, but then I was like, man, how do I not play Barkley in this spot, especially with they were sitting Booker, right? I mean, they didn't have any running backs. It was apparent that they were going to use Barkley a ton. So I was like, I'm playing Barkley, no doubt. Played DK Metcalf, like you talked about. He was the guy that I was pretty high on. I wanted to play him. And then Mike Williams and Robert Woods on FanDuel. The issue was once we got Alexander Madison and Saquon Barkley, we didn't need both, correct? We only needed one of them. So what I ended up doing was I played Williams. I played Williams instead of Robert Woods, and it was because I was able to get up to Cooper Kupp. I didn't think Cooper Kupp was a priority on FanDuel, but I just sat there and I was like, I'm going to play Mike Williams instead because I don't need to play Robert Woods. And then Barkley and Madison, because they were two just key decision points to lock into your lineups and play. You had all this salary, right? I had the money to get up to Travis Kelce, to get up to Lamar Jackson, who was already probably looking to play on FanDuel. If the 400 mattered, I thought Josh Allen was fine. And ultimately I ended up on Mike Williams over Robert Woods, not because I thought Mike Williams was for sure better than him, but just that's how the chips fell, right? Sometimes you win that coin flip. I thought that Robert Woods was still a good play, but I liked how I could get exposure to the Chargers offense and then exposure to the Rams offense. I like getting Travis Kelce in there. And I kind of prioritized the Bills defense over the Bengals, even though I thought you could go down to the Bengals defense because Big Ben is an absolute disaster. And I already had the Bengals on DK, so I was okay kind of splitting it up on each site. If you went the Bengals D on FanDuel, I thought it was fine, but I just didn't need to with all the salary we had because Barkley and Madison just made it so easy to pay for so many guys. And then you just grabbed raw points in certain spots, and it's like wherever your guys fell, you were fine. The other running back that I went that I don't regret going because of the workload, and I think he's going to crush, and I'm a little annoyed that he's not on the main slate again, is Joe Mixon. 18 carries for 90 yards, only had one reception, but his efficiency was incredible. I do expect him to be good going forward. It does feel like it is his backfield. The only worry I have is on those real big 3rd and longs, like 3rd and 15, you do see them like throwing this like Evans guy, and I forget who the other one was. So occasionally on some of the passing ones, they toss him in.
Yeah, that's probably what, like 80% of the NFL teams kind of do that. It doesn't matter. Even with Christian McCaffrey, when he was out there, I mean, they'd mix in, the random dude on 3rd and super long. So yeah, I mean, his workload's massive. The team is better than people think too.
It's not pass work. Like even if like they're losing in games, I don't think it is. Correct.
Are you talking about for Mixon? Like
like is Mixon's not going to lose that work, right?
No. Mixon's definitely the 3 round. I mean, he's the one that people I don't think talk enough about. But he's definitely their 3 round back. If they're losing by 14, he's going to be in the game. P. Ryan just comes in if they're offense 3rd and 20 or whatever, and he gets his little stuff. But Mixon's a 3rd down back for sure. 3 down back.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But I just want to. It's something I'm looking into, and Maddie's on the main. He's not on the main slate because I think he's a really good play, and I also think like he's one of those guys that the price hasn't adjusted for what I think he can do, and I do think he's going to have a good day on Thursday. So who knows? Maybe he'll be a captain on Thursday for me. I know the fading running backs is something I've been doing and hasn't worked out as well. I like playing receivers, but man, Mixon's in like an elite role. I feel like.
Yeah. Fading running backs. It didn't work out last night. If you didn't have Zeke, you were not winning. And my final decision, I mean, I didn't do super amazing. I did good last night. Final decision was Miles Sanders or Zeke. And I've hated Zeke forever. I was like, you know what? I gotta play Zeke over Miles freaking Sanders. It worked out. Zeke is going to be an interesting option though this week. I mean, not to move along too much, but $7K flat on FanDuel. I mean, that's going to be tempting. I mean, I know a lot of people were concerned that Tony Pollard is kind of digging into his workload. Zeke's out there a ton. Any game that they're winning, it's going to be Zeke. And the one nice thing to see is Pollard and Zeke out there together quite a bit too. There's more than a few plays last night where those guys were both out there together. So Zeke this week is definitely a talking point and something that I think is something to monitor. All right. Anything else on FanDuel before we head on over and talk DK? Good to go. All right. On DK, similar lock plays. Madison's price was not as good on DK as it was on FanDuel. He's 6K on DK, 5.2 on FanDuel. He just played him. I mean, the only guy behind him was Abdullah, who they picked up right off the practice squad. The news just continued to get better for Madison, starting basically Saturday afternoon all the way up to lock. Like everything that broke in his favor. 6K, I think he played him. Felt good about Barkley, and Mangone brought up that point about Booker being inactive. I was liking Barkley a lot, and that was kind of a piece that kind of went under the radar a little bit. Didn't get a lot of pub, and not many people talked about it. But eliminating a running back, just made the path for Saquon even easier. And we're going to see some big games from Saquon, I think, moving forward. 6.5K. I thought you played him. I think we had 2 locks at wide receiver. Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp. I think both were stone locks. I mean, I just think those guys, maybe even more so than the running backs. You just played those guys. Kupp's price was ridiculous. We talked about it on every show last week. Should have been a lot more expensive. The game theory people are probably paying the price, because I'm assuming a lot of people talk themselves into fades, knowing how popular he was going to be. You needed him last week. There wasn't a ton of ceiling performances in terms of fantasy points. His 30.6, one of the better fantasy performances all week. You needed him. Chris Godwin, I thought, was a lock at 6.1K. Antonio Brown ruled out. This game was just shaping up to be a passing type game, and that's kind of what happened. The Rams obviously got the better. I mean, the Rams look damn good. I will say, I was hating on Stafford. I have not officially taken my L yet, but I will admit he looks a lot better there than I anticipated. A lot of people saw it coming. Maybe I was just being stubborn because I was the Lions thing and how I hate the Lions. Maybe I need to look past that and admit that Stafford's better. I'm not going to do it yet. I will probably at some point. Like I said, I'm willing to take my L's, unlike one of the other members here at Run Pure Sports. Big T is his name. And then at tight end, I thought you either went Higbee, or I really like Hawkinson. Hopefully you went Higbee, because Hawkinson really didn't have all that good of a game. And then defense, you went cheap. I mean, Bengals were the clear play. I think you could have gone Titans too. I like the Titans a little bit at 2.4K against the banged up Carson Wentz. So a lot of spots were determined for you. I think the spots that were up for discussion were quarterback, wide receiver 3, and then flex, depending if you went 4 wide receivers or 3 running backs. We'll start with you, Mango, and kind of talk to me about your process here on DraftKings.
Yeah, so I was on the cash chart for the DK stuff, and I locked in Cooper Kupp and Godwin, which, I mean, it's encouraging to hear you say the same thing. Hey, like, those were 2 stone locks, and I felt the same way, especially once Antonio Brown was out. So, okay, Godwin's too cheap, and Cooper Kupp at 6.8 is egregious. While on FanDuel, he is 7.8, which we definitely have to talk about Cooper Kupp when we get to like the looking at next week, because he's 8.6 on FanDuel, while Devontae Adams is 8.2, which is very interesting to see. But Cooper Kupp was a lock on DK for me, Godwin, and then, man, I struggled with the last lock because I guess like Barkley is something I maybe could have done, but I didn't know if I was going him for sure on DK till like Sunday morning. And we try to put this stuff up on Friday or Saturday, and I did feel pretty confident in TJ Hawkinson being a lock for the most part. But I also felt really good about the Bengals D. But I felt dumb locking the Bengals D on like the cash chart. But I thought that they were just like the best play once you heard Carson Wentz was in Saturday night. Big T, he thinks he's an MVP candidate. So of course, you can't play the defense against an MVP candidate.
We're going to have to have like a special Run Pure show when Big T is finally willing to admit that Carson Wentz is freaking dust.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a fun time. Get the Brady Bunch boxes out there so we can all hang out and just talk to Big T about it. See if we can have an intervention. But I do think the Bengals D was the right play on DK, and I think Hawkinson was right too. You could make an argument if the $1,200 matter or however much it was for Higbee, I wouldn't have told you not to do it, right? I also wouldn't have hated if you were like, hey, like, I want to play Kyle Pitts instead because the 300 mattered. I think you could have, but I thought that Hawkinson was the better play. Madison was different on DK, right? 6K is a bit of a different price tag. And I thought you still wanted to play him. I thought you still play him. He probably should be 7K in this spot, maybe even 7.2. So just get Alexander Madison in there. So I got those guys. And then I went 3 running backs, which I was at first going to go 4 receivers this week. And then it changed once we got the Madison news and the Barkley stuff. I went CEH as my 4th running back or 3rd running back, not because I liked him and said, oh, he's going to have a monster game. We're going to be incredible. I just saw the touchdown equity. I saw the rollies in and I said, this guy has been 6K in the past. And I don't love a lot of other spots on this slate. And if I'm paying for Lamar Jackson, I'm paying for Barkley, I'm paying for all these guys, Cooper Kupp, Godwin, I'm living in the mid tier. When you live in the mid-tier, you do need at least some salary relief, and he helped me get some salary relief. And I thought the running back position wasn't a spot where I loved it a lot, where I could go down and get a cheap option. So those are my 3 running backs. I mentioned my tight end, my defense. My quarterback was Lamar Jackson. The reason I went Lamar over a Justin Fields or a Daniel Jones was, again, since I was living in that mid-tier, I had a spot where I could spend up, right? I understood the Justin Fields thing, but I could not go Justin Fields in his first game against the Browns defense. I get the rushing upside, but listen, I this is where I talk about using the optimizer. I ran the optimizers And when I looked at it, Lamar Jackson was on 100 of 97 teams, right? Like I was just like, that's telling me something. And sometimes I just say, I think it's wrong because of this, that, and that, but I didn't want to fight it. I thought it was unnecessary. And I went with Lamar Jackson as the option. And then my last receiver that I plugged in, and I went back and forth between Tyler Boyd and Marvin Jones, but it was like 2v2s and 3v3s. The difference was, I think there was like a Mike Davis. It was Mike Davis and Marvin Jones versus, or maybe it wasn't that, but there was some decision point where it was like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Mike Davis was like one of the $300 decisions. And it was like Tyler Boyd and like Marvin Jones or something. And I was like, I really want CH over Mike Davis. I didn't feel secure in Mike Davis's role. And because of that, I said, I'm just going to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Hopefully Damian Williams doesn't screw me. And luckily he didn't. So that was good.
Just another
Tyler Boyd worked out. So
yeah, another team where some of these weapons are just going to get penalized all season. The Falcons. I mean, it's just so freaking painful. I mean, Matt Ryan, Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, Kyle Pitts is out there every play. And what do you get? 3 targets? I mean, 3 freaking targets. Ridley not going to have the monster season. You know, these Davis, who people are high on, they're all paying the price because this team's just going to continue to roll out a freaking dust ball at quarterback. And it sucks. I was super high on Pitts. And I did the best balls. I got tons of Pitts. Calvin Ridley. I mean, man, it's just a painful thing. Yeah, I agree. Like Tyler Boyd, Marvin Jones, that was definitely a decision point. Even at, some of the teams I was building, I played mostly tournaments on DK, but I was looking at, Tyler Boyd I played a lot of Tyler Boyd in the flex with the 4 wide receiver teams. There were some solid, I thought you could even gone down to the 3.5K guy, the Vikings guy. Obviously didn't work out. He didn't do anything, but I was looking at some teams that had him in there for cash games as well. But, the quarterback thing, I know a lot of people, I got a lot of questions from members, Fields or Daniel Jones. And, I was on Team Jones in that situation just because with Fields, I want to see it, from him. And obviously I thought this was a really bad spot for him to get his first start in Cleveland. Obviously, that decision turned out to be correct because he was a very, very painful watch on Sunday.
Well, real quick, you brought up a lot of really good points there. And before you talked about how you were mentioning the one of the players, Matt Ryan, right? And sometimes when we invest in players, we don't think about the head coaches and the quarterbacks they're with, right? And one thing I thought about with Justin Fields was, do I want to play Justin Fields with awful Matt Nagy there? Like, not really. And this is another thing we'll talk about when we get to the preview for next week. But Justin Fields against the Lions, that is interesting. It's also, he's playing the Lions, not the Browns. It might even be in a dome too. I'm not sure if it's in Detroit or not, but that's going to be an interesting thing to talk about, as we get to the preview stuff. But I think about that when I invest in these players. Like, who is their coach? Who is the guy, if the quarterback is there for the receiver, who is throwing him the ball? I mean, if it's some terrible quarterback, can he get him the ball, right? Like, that is always a concern. So those are things that I think about when rostering my players that I don't think a lot of people discuss. So I think that's very important and a good point that you brought up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Title thoughts here on DraftKings.
So I didn't even decide or debate punting quarterback. I'm, again, mainly team pay up. I didn't think it was even worth it. I thought it was Lamar or Josh Allen. I was fine with either. I had the money for Lamar. Obviously wish I didn't, but he was third.
that was the same point I said on every show, everything last week. I really like Josh Allen, but if I have the money, I'll just get up to Lamar. Well, yeah. I ended up having the money in a lot of teams to get up to Lamar, which sucked.
Exactly. He was 13 passing yards away from the bonus, all those drop passes. Like, I think it was the right play. I like it.
Well,
I agree with
Saquon. One thing I'll say real quick with you guys discussing that, that's where I think using the optimizer is really key. Like, if you like Josh Allen, Hoop, lock in Josh Allen, right? Like, lock in your, lock in whatever receiver you think is the best option. And then while you're building the team that you're struggling with on the Josh Allen versus Lamar, lock those two guys and look at the top 10 teams and then look at the team you built and see what you like compared to it, because the math is kind of creating the answer for you. And sometimes you might miss something, or sometimes you might look at it and be like, man, the team I built by hand is terrible. Or you might look at the optimizer stuff and be like, the team that's optimized, I don't love. And I think I've built a better team by hand. So I think that's something that you can do that I think is very valuable.
Yeah, certainly, important to use all resources. And if you're a Run Pure Sports member and you use the playbook as a resource, you would have been in good hands because I had Josh Allen tagged as an RPS play. So that's the one shining thing all week. I knew the way it was shaping up. I did not think he'd have a lot of ownership. He didn't. I wish I would have listened to my own advice a little bit more. I played him on some teams, but I didn't have the right combination. But he was an RPS tag, which is all around like good play. We'll have a couple quarterbacks tagged as RPS plays in the playbook, a couple running backs, a couple wide receivers, maybe one tight end, one defense tagged as RPS, just great all around plays. Josh Allen got that tag at the quarterback position. So if you looked at the playbook, hopefully you played him a lot. But Title, talk to me about your DK process here.
Yeah, I saw you had him too. And I mean, the first two shows I played him, 5%, 10%, both sides.
Yeah.
And you were like, go back to him. And I was like, I know he's too cheap. Of course, Lamar, but whatever. I thought paying up was right. Saquon, I agree. I thought running back was pretty weak on DraftKings, actually. I went the 4 wide receiver route again. I think it's 3 for 3 now on DK. Saquon, I did lock in, though. Running back 2, I'll get back to because that was one of the last things I filled out. Cooper Kupp and Godwin, totally agree. I thought they were two of the easiest locks on the slate. After that, I thought wide receiver 3, 4, tight end. I put in Bengals or Tennessee defense. I just plug in Bengals, the cheapest one. If I had the 300, I would have debated a little more, but Big Ben sucks. I thought Cleveland was winning this, or since he was winning this game outright, they got there. I ended up going Robert Woods and Higbee. So I went full on Rams onslaught. And some people were asking, why didn't you run Stafford and stuff? You don't need the correlation in cash games. I mean, if the Rams put up 14 points, if Higbee and Robert Woods got 1 touchdown, I'd still be live to cash. If you have Stafford in there and he busts and Lamar gets 30, you're drawing dead in cash games. So I don't put all my eggs in one basket, but we're looking at it. Cooper Kupp was already a stone lock. Higbee was 4K. Hawkinson was 5.2. But that's why I didn't even decide or think about paying down at quarterback because that 1,200, I mean, if Higbee last week, he ran almost every route. He only got 1 target. If he gets you 16 last week, he's the uber chalk this week, I think. And I mean, there was nothing that was wrong with his snap share, with his any of that. It was just he had a bad game. He got in the end zone for me, 15, but I thought 4K was too cheap and the 1,200 went a long way for me. So I went Higbee there. I thought Woods at 5.7 was also too cheap. I mean, the Rams had the highest total. It was the best game by far. I ran it back with Godwin. I don't think about all that stuff in cash, but I already have 2 locks. I thought he was way too cheap. I thought the Rams game was a shootout. They put up 34 points. I expect more than 6.8 from Woods normally. So I went there, and then I landed at Tyler Boyd and Joe Mixon for the last 2 spots. Tyler Boyd without T. Higgins. I tweeted to Tyler Boyd. I don't think has never done me wrong in DFS. The guy's just this total stud. His touchdown was sick too. Across the middle, took a hit, bounced off. He got in. He's just a gamer. I love playing him. 4,700 was cheap. And then Joe Mixon. I could have maybe went Madison over Mixon. Now that looking at it, like I could have went Madison, a Tennessee Titans over a Mixon, Bengals, stuff like that. I had Mixon on FanDuel. I just think Mixon, kind of as Mangone said, I think he has a big role this year. 3 down back. I thought he ran pretty bad too, but 6.3K. He almost got the bonus for me. I don't hate the play. He was low owned, but I like Mixon as a running back, but he wasn't by far a lock at all. He was one of the last things I put in my lineup. And then Cincy D. So Lamar, Saquon, Mixon, Kupp, Godwin, Boyd, Higbee, Woods, Bengals D, 149.68. I made most of them. I fell out of a couple of the double offs and stuff, but at the end of the day, I like my team.
What a man of the people, just here talking, week 3 review and in the chat giving season-long advice. I mean, Title, you're just a hero for these people. I mean, I'm assuming you'd be open to people hitting you up on Twitter or, email with more season-long questions, right?
I'm not a big season-long guy, but if you're watching the show and you're in here and you have a question, I can help you out.
Real quick, if you're a big season-long guy, Hoop, they got to tune into the Wood Show on Sundays, right? Hyder Forte season-long.
Hyder Forte, man. It's the never-ending question, and there really was never a real answer for it, or right or wrong. But Hyde versus Forte, live strong. I mean, that's been going for 5 years. That was a good run there for sure.
Hoop, I hope, when you become a massive celebrity, right, like 10, 15 years, I hope you're in the airport, and maybe you don't have a jet yet. I don't know. Maybe you'll have a private jet, but I hope you just get a random question. Someone just goes, Hyder Forte season long, that's the running joke for many years. We'll know that you're an OG if you are asking that question.
Something you can never forget. That is for sure. All right, let's go in and kind of look at some stuff for next week. A few games that kind of stand out, just going through the games based on the things we saw this week. Two really, really bad defenses, and the Chiefs and Eagles, they play this week. 55 total, Chiefs favored by 7. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of ownership revolve around this game based on how bad the defenses are. Chiefs defense looks atrocious. Eagles looked really bad overall last night. Another game I think that could be pretty interesting. Cardinals, Rams, 55 total in that one. Rams favored by 5. Cowboys face the Panthers. They have a pretty big total there, 50.5. So a few games that I think we'll be looking at throughout the week for DFS purposes. Mangone, I want to go to you. Is there any injury things that we're kind of watching this week? I mean, I know Dalvin Cook, it'll be important to see what his status is. I'm assuming he gets back. Is there anything else that we're going to be waiting on throughout the week?
Yeah, I'm thinking through the games. I'm assuming the Niners, what's the running back situation like? Like, that could matter. It is a 52 total, but people might just want to stay away from it because it's such a disaster. Maybe Darrell Henderson. I don't know if he'd be back in time for that game. So that's obviously something maybe to look at. Worth mentioning, those are like the 4:00 games. I talked about looking at those 4:00 games a little closer because of some of the swapping you can do. And there are some good players later on, right? I mean, listen, we talk about the Steelers being absolutely terrible. You get Green Bay at home with a team total of 26 against that Steelers team. I mean, man, you could definitely see, some nice little options for Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. Yeah. They could be very intriguing on this slate. Browns and Vikings, that's a really surprising one. 53 total. I didn't expect to see that here on this slate, but I definitely look to target the 50 totals at first. And it is in Minnesota where that's a dome, so that's always good. No Landry, so maybe Odell Beckham. Maybe we have to monitor his injury situation. I know he played last week, but he has had that nagging hip. I will say
the Vikings offense, not to cut you off, the Vikings offense obviously looked good last week, but man, they play I don't know the numbers, but they play pretty fast. It seems like Cousins is taking shots with these wide receivers, a lot of play action stuff. Looked really good last week, so maybe it's a bias, but they look pretty good, their offense.
Well, the thing I like about it, Hoop, is and I try to target this more in DFS, and I think Big T has brought this up on some shows, and it's something I did last year. And, you kind of relearn things that you forget. It's why on earth are you targeting? I played Nick Chubb this week, and I thought Nick Chubb was fine in tournaments, but why play him when I could play Alvin Kamara, who I know his role is just defined. It's his, right? They're the same price, basically. Why am I playing the guessing game? And I don't want to do that. You know what guessing game I don't have to play with the Vikings? I know the targets are going to Jefferson or Thielen. It's just simple. So if they're trailing, at least one of them is going to crush. And with receivers, that's a very unique thing to have. It's very rare to find a situation where all the targets are funneled to just 2 guys, it seems like. Yes, there is some for Osborne, but why play the guessing game with the Falcons, right? Why are we playing Falcons roulette? Is it Cordell Patterson? Is it Mike Davis? Is it going to Ridley? Will they just throw Zacchaeus in there? I just think that's something I want to key in on a little bit more. And that's one thing I like about the Vikings offense that you mentioned is a great point.
Yeah. The Alvin Kamara thing you just brought up, it's going to be funny. So Alvin Kamara, week 1, highest owned guy on the slate, does okay. Week 2, unowned. Who'd they play week 2? Hang on, I had this all lined up, and
I played Kamara week 2.
So Kamara did fine week 1. Week 2, full bust against the Panthers, whose defense is pretty good. Week 3, unowned, has a really good game. Week 4 is going to be super popular at home against the Giants as basically a touchdown favorite, coming off a game where he got 27 touches. That is a big boy number. He'll be highly owned this week. Title, what were you going to say?
No, I was just agreeing. So I didn't mean to. Yeah. I mean, what you're getting from Kamara. He's going to touch the ball a ton. I was with my buddies watching the game. They play FanDuel stuff too. And they were talking Kamara, no. And I was like, I mean, I don't not getting a Kamara and cash, but he's one of the best tournament plays. Like just because he busts. I mean, this is the week-to-week league that everyone just completely overlooks in NFL and makes a mistake. Like it's Alvin Kamara. I mean, should be a good game script against the Patriots. Kamara is a stud. They just got ran off the field last game. Like Peyton's going to put it in their best man's hands. That's Kamara. I just think like his ownership was just silly this week. I thought it was just week to week. Yeah. That's the edge in NFL.
Yep. What about the Panthers situation? Either you guys have a read on one of these guys? Is Hubbard the guy? Is he worth taking a look at for DFS? Something to monitor this week. Either you guys have a take on that one?
I think so.
It's Chuba, right? Title, no doubt.
Yeah. 6.3K on FanDuel. What is he on DraftKings? 5.9. I don't think he's a stolen lock, but he's the guy in the backfield for sure. You can feel pretty good about that.
This is a good time we can plug the college football, right? Because Chuba Hubbard was an Oklahoma State guy. Always fed the rock. I love playing him in CFB. So Chuba Hubbard is definitely a guy that can handle a full workload. So don't worry, he'll get his. The only worry is what will the coaching staff do, right? Will they mix in? And I think they will mix in Royce Freeman a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't steal the goal line work. I don't think there was enough goal line work to be able to know that. Maybe if you look at week 1 and week 2 to see who got some goal line work, maybe that'll be a little bit of a read on that. But I really do like Chuba Hubbard. I'm a huge fan of him. He helped me in college for sure. He's a guy that gets fed carries. So, but check out our college football content. Bruce has been absolutely crushing it. And we've been doing really well. I know I had my core up the other day and my core didn't hit well. My core hit well. I didn't pick the right pieces around it, but our boy Drew A in the chat, he did. He had like 80. I think he like won $82 or played $82 and won like maybe 2.5K. I forget what the exact number is on it, but I know Drew A was asking me questions about my core, and he definitely had those guys in there. So check out the college football premium. It's absolutely awesome, and we'll be back at it for sure next week. I know Big T, he'll be dropping his core, so be sure to get in the Discord chat so you can check that out.
Yeah, Bruce finds I don't play college football DFS, but it sounds like Bruce just finds these 3K gems that just freaking print every week. Just every week.
He found Tay Barber, which I almost played him. I was busy around lock, so I couldn't listen to the show, and I was debating on going him possibly, but I didn't need a 3K guy. But if you do need one, man, Bruce has you covered. And if Bruce talks about one, and I wish I heard that he talked about it a little bit more, I would have been all over it because Bruce absolutely crushes it with those.
All right, let's go through some of these prices quickly on each site. I'll go to Title for FanDuel and then Mangone. You can do DK, but the initial thoughts here on FanDuel is you're probably going to want to pay up at quarterback. I mean, the prices are just too cheap. And I think it's kind of a mindset that we've all had all season long is, not getting cute at quarterback. These prices are just cheap on FanDuel. Mahomes at 8.7, Josh Allen at 8.5, Kyler Murray at 8.2. Lamar Jackson, the matchup's definitely not great against Denver. Denver's appears to have one of the better defenses, but 8K. Jalen Hurts, he looked like complete shit last night, just awful. And he still gets 23 fantasy points. The floor on these guys it's just incredibly high. Dak 7.7, Wilson 7.7, Aaron Rodgers 7.6. Just don't get cute, I don't think, unless something crazy happens. Then running back, like I said, I think Kamara ends up pretty popular at 9K. Aaron Jones 7.4, Zeke at 7, I think is interesting. I mean, the matchup's not great against Carolina, but Dallas, their offense looked really good. And if Dak is going to play that well, it's going to open up a ton of opportunities for Zeke. Wide receiver, Cooper Kupp. FanDuel continues to do a better job with Kupp. They got him up there at 8.6. If you want to play him, you're paying a full premium. Cooper Kupp is now more expensive than Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. He's more expensive than all those guys. I assume his ownership comes in low on FanDuel because of the price. We'll see. And then tight end, Kelsey's on the main slate. You have Kittle at a discounted price tag. He's currently questionable. I don't know how serious that injury is. Just a couple of price points that kind of stand out. Title, anything to add here on FanDuel?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think you hit it pretty well. Quarterback, the guy that catches my eye right away, Josh Allen, 8.5K. He gets this Texans team. I'm not scared of it all. I think Mahomes for 200 more against the Eagles would make a lot of sense, or Hurts in that same game at 7,900 if you need a little decrease. Those are the three guys that I'm looking at right now. Obviously, it's so early. Fields is 6'4". He's going to grade out pretty good point per dollar. He gets Detroit, but I just don't really see myself going there with the pricing. I think paying up's always the better way with the ceiling. So Allen, Hurts, Mahomes, I think it's one of those three. Running back, Kamara, like you mentioned, he's a very strong play. I think Mike Davis is really cheap on both sites too. He gets this Washington team that was supposed to be one of the best defensive teams, definitely best front sevens there have been, but they've been very bad this year. I think Mike Davis, his role is pretty strong. Cordell Patterson's definitely mixing in once in a while, but I think he's strong, too cheap. Chuba Hubbard, like I meant, or like Mangone was talking about, he's going to be the guy. McCaffrey's not coming back. I would be very surprised. He's a very strong play if you got to go down. Aaron Jones is another one that stands out against Pittsburgh. Should be a good game script. He's been absolutely dominating. So I think those guys are the main guys right now. Wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, like you mentioned, I just can't play him at 86 over Devontae Adams at 81. He stands out for my pay up wide receiver. Robert Woods, though, I'm just going to keep going right back to him. I don't know if it's just going to burn me all year where I just keep doing it, but 6.2K, $2,400 savings from Kupp. I know Kupp's the number one. It's pretty clear by now, but you got to think defenses are going to start keying in.
Yeah,
and Woods
that's going to be my point. Defenses are going to have to adjust at some point, and getting exposure to that passing game, I think, is going to be very important most weeks, especially with Henderson out or dinged up. Kupp is phenomenal, and there's no doubt about it. But, a guy like Robert Woods, I think, is definitely going to continue to be in play for me personally, for that main reason where you have to imagine defenses are going to start giving this guy more attention. It's been easy, too. I mean, he's been wide open, and him and Stafford have this connection. You have to assume that more attention on him moving forward.
Definitely. And Robert Woods, I mean, the Rams always have 29 implied total this week. It's always one of the highest. They have a really good offense. Who knows? Henderson, it looks like, is questionable. So Woods seems too cheap, 6'2". Ridley stands out at 7'2", but man, like dusty Matt Ryan, I don't know if I will be able to pay that price tag. Like it's too cheap for someone as talented as Ridley. Should be a good game script, but putting your hand on that ball in Matthew Stafford's or in Matt Ryan's hands to get Ridley the ball is concerning. And then in the Chiefs Philadelphia game, which I do like a lot, if you're going to Hurts, or even if not, Devontae Smith at 5.9K. I think they bounce back a little bit. Hurts his ceiling, or its floor is high, his ceiling's high. Devontae Smith is number one, I think, still, even with Rager's game yesterday. So I like that price tag. Going over to tight end, I think it's Kelsey or Kittle. Probably Kelsey. He's the best by far at the position. Salary, you can do whatever you want. So thinking Kelsey at tight end. I'm doubt I pay down. That's more on DraftKings. Defense, It's whatever works. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, so a lot more of the same on DK. I will say the one thing, just going through this for the first time, these Dallas guys are going to be very popular. I know the Panthers defense has been solid, but the price points on DK really stand out. You have Dak Prescott at 6.7K. I'm assuming he's probably going to be one of the more popular plays at the position. Wide receiver, you have CeeDee Lamb at 6.7, and then Amari Cooper's all the way down at 6K. I think those guys are both going to be pretty popular this week. Let's see, running back. A lot of the same guys. I think Alvin Kamara at 8.4 will be very popular on both sites. I mean, 27 touches for him. Now they're at home, favored by 7. He's clearly going to be the guy that most people go to. Aaron Jones, the price tag is a little more expensive at 7K. You got Saquon Barkley at 6.7, not the greatest matchup. Zeke at 6.5. A guy to watch moving forward, I think, is DeAndre Swift. If he's going to continue to get all these targets, another racked up 7 targets, 7 catches last week. I mean, his floor is going to be massive. Not the greatest spot, but his sort of role could potentially be matchup proof and definitely something to monitor moving forward. Edwards-Helaire, 5.4K. Go over to wide receiver. I mean, these guys are all just way too cheap to me. Devontae Adams under 8K. So the highest priced wide receiver on DK is 8K. So, Devontae at 7.9, too cheap. Kupp, 7.8, too cheap. I guess when everyone's too cheap, ownership probably gets spread out a little bit, and that could be the case this week. And then tight end, like you said, There's definitely merit to going all the way up to Kelsey. You see it more on FanDuel opposed to DraftKings, but after what we saw last night from Dalton Schultz, he's only 3.4K. I think he ends up being pretty popular this week in cash games. So I think a lot of people are going to go Cowboys heavy in cash. They have a nice team total, so it's certainly something to monitor as the week goes on. Mangone, any initial thoughts here on DraftKings?
Yeah, so there's some not crazy price tags, but let's talk about running back, right? Najee Harris, 6'8" against the Packers, who suck against the run. Big Ben can't throw far, and I believe Najee Harris leads the league in receptions. I think it's like he's like, I don't know if he got like after the 1 o'clock games, maybe he did, but either way, he's up there, right? He had 14 the other day. He had an absurd number. Maybe it's targets, I forget, but Najee Harris, we can't sleep on the production he's getting with Big Ben. How banged up he is, and he can't like literally just throw the ball like 2 yards. So obviously Najee Harris on a PPR side at 6'8", I'm not going to ignore it. Barkley at 6'7", he's going to get production. Madison at 6'6", you can't ignore the production if there's no Dalvin Cook in that team total. Ezekiel Elliott, 6'5", against Carolina with a 31 team total. I'm not a huge Zeke guy, but I mean, Zeke is definitely, he's in play. You got to at least talk about him. I don't know if I'll actually do it, but
if Dak's going to play as good as he did last night all season long, Zeke is a buy, I think, at this point with these low price tags. Like, it makes it so. 1 week sample size, don't get me wrong, that's very small. Some of those holes, Mangone, even like with your history of tripping through hallways and foot races, I mean, you could have hit those holes.
Yeah, I could hit that hole and I can fall forward for 4 or 5 yards, right? I can get us to the first down marker every time. So if I get my hand down, maybe I can even get to 7 yards. But Antonio Gibson at 6'1" is another guy, right? He's in a dome, right? And Zeke, like you talked about, he's in a dome. I mean, it's too good of spots in these dome games where these price tags, and I think this is the DK algorithm this year, the mid-tier is too good, right? I think some years you've seen team jam them in, right? I don't know if that's going to be the year for it. I think this is going to be the year the algorithm is giving us a lot of really good mid-tier guys that we just have to consider. And you're seeing that at running back. Chuba Hubbard on the opposite side of Zeke, right? If he is going to be in there and being the primary guy, I mean, he got 5 targets last week in a game that they were winning. Imagine if they're losing and Zeke has the really good game script with Pollard and Hubbard. I mean, you just can't ignore it at that price tag. It's going to be something to talk about. I mean, Chase Edmonds, if they're losing against the Rams, Chase Edmonds is at 8 targets, 5 targets, 4 targets. He's at double digits in all 3 games. That floor at 5.5K, you just can't ignore that. I mean, there are options here in this range at running back that I'm just going to be looking at and considering. And then receiver, you talk about Adams and Kupp. I mean, again, if you want to live with some of those like 6K guys or so, you can maybe get up to one of these 7K guys that you talked about. I mean, DK Metcalf at 7.2, right? I think he's certainly in play. So don't ignore him. I mean, Devontae Adams, what did Devontae Adams do? He had 25 fantasy points against the Niners. I'm not saying DK Metcalf is Devontae Adams, but he's certainly in play.
Those quarterbacks looked rough, man. Like that was not a good scene for the 49ers secondary. But, going against Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams is a tough task. Don't get me wrong, but it looked rough for him, this week.
Yeah, and I mean, you talk about those Cowboys receivers, Hoop. What about Calvin Ridley? So Calvin Ridley, 10.1 fantasy points, 19.3 and 14.1. He hasn't even been that impressive, and he's 7K against the football team. Now, I know the football team's defense isn't bad, but again, this one's in a dome. I know we talked about Matt Ryan and like being a little worried about him, but that price tag is getting interesting. So there are interesting price tags all around the industry. I mean, even Brandon Cooks at 6'4". Brandon Cooks is averaging 22 fantasy points a game. He's at over 21.2 in every single game. He's going to have a good game script. Now, the problem is that game is in Buffalo, and if it's windy, that could be a problem. Amari Cooper, 6K. Like, there's so many guys. I mean, we talked about the Vikings and targeting those games, how they interact so well. Well, Odell Beckham Jr. is 5.8K. There's just so many guys in the mid-tier that you can be playing, Hoop, that I'm going to look at that range a ton, I think. And at tight end, if George Kittle's healthy, 5'9" is getting interesting. George Kittle versus Hawkinson. I mean, Hawkinson in a game Kittle in a game that's going to interact a ton. I just can't ignore it. So there's so many mid-tier guys. I mean, that's just the thing I'm talking about. It's just like mid-tier. I think that's the point I'm just going to be hammering home a ton.
Yeah, I mean, when they bring down these top prices, it makes it easy to get a lot of, really solid players. And, we're going to see a lot more of that moving forward, I think. The pricing is, softer than it's been in the past. makes it easier to build teams, forces you in one direction. But some of these price tags are tough to not take advantage of, for sure. But we'll have the rest of our content rolling out throughout the week. 2 p.m. show every day. Some are free, some are premium. If you're not currently a member, you can use that promo code RPS Heater 25. Gets you access to everything on the website. You know the spiel. We're not like the other sites where we charge you when new sports starts. One price gets you everything. You can try it out for 25% off your first payment with that promo code RPS Heater 25. If you're somebody that focuses on head-to-heads, 50-50s, double ups, our cash game show, 2 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. It'll be some combination of two of us and Holden, and we'll be breaking down the entire slate more in depth. So check us out throughout the week, like I said, with all the content that drops. That's going to do it here for the cash review / week 4 preview. We'll be back same time, same day next week. For Title, for Mangone, I'm Hoop. We'll see you next week.